Greetings and welcome to Refuge Depot. And as you can see on the screen, we have how to shelter in place. And today we're going to be talking about the serious subject of sheltering in place as we look at all of the things that we see going on in the country. And I think it's something that we should all be very mindful of. And what's so surprising to me, and I just got off the phone with a sister who's going to come on to our program, and she's going to be talking about canning. She is definitely a sister who is very knowledgeable about the ABCs of canning. And if you don't know what canning is, basically it's where if you're able to grow your own food, it's a way for you to preserve it, and so she'll be coming on and talking about that. But we were talking, and one of the things that we were talking about is that even with all of the calamity that we see going on with the weather, with the politics and everything else, a lot of our people, and when I say our people, I'm talking about American people, are seemingly really kind of like oblivious to the danger that is right around the corner. So today, what we're going to be talking about is sheltering in place, and I'm going to bring on my two co-hosts who are always knowledgeable about preparedness and survival. So let me go ahead and I'll first go ahead and bring on Mr. Sanford Whitlow, and let me bring him on. Greetings, brother. How you doing today?
Outstanding. How you doing, brother Steve?
Oh, I'm doing well, doing well. As the Christians say, blessed and highly favored. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring on my brother Aaron Olinger. Uh-oh, I hit the wrong button. Sorry about that, brother Aaron. Go ahead, brother Aaron. How you doing today?
I'm doing great today, Steve.
All right, excellent, excellent. And so we're going to be talking about sheltering in place. And if we want, let's go ahead and just give some examples of why we should shelter in place, and then we'll get right on into it. We'll let you take the helm, brother Sanford. So let's give some examples of why individuals should shelter in place. And brother Aaron, if you want to start it off with a few.
Okay. Uh, One is familiarity. It's a great morale booster to be inside your own home and be in familiar surroundings. For one, two, by sheltering in place, you have access to many more resources than you would if you was trying to survive in your car, or you could only carry a backpack on your back with what was in it. You could stock up a few years of supplies inside your home to be able to outlast the situation. And, by sheltering in place, you're also familiar with the neighbors in the neighborhood. You might build your community by working a partnership, a mutual thing to where you guys can protect each other, trade with one another, share skills with one another. I mean, there's many reasons to shelter in
Right.
place versus being out. Because when you leave your home and you think you're going to go out there and be one with nature, I can tell you right now, you're going to be homeless and you're going to be living a
Wow.
homeless lifestyle. That fantasy of being one with nature and everything's going to be kumbaya, that's a big fantasy. When you're out there
Right.
freezing inside of a tent and you've got no resources, it's a lonely lifestyle. And then there's not much game out there as there used to be when I was a kid. So thinking that you're going to live off the land, man, that
Mm,
would be a very difficult task, especially if you don't have the
mm,
skill sets to be able to hunt, fish, or be able to forage and know what plants are safe to eat and what plants aren't safe to eat. Um, you can have a
yeah.
garden inside your house, a container garden. You can garden outside your home. You have a means of being able. You should have a means of being able to heat your home. Uh, you're able to sleep in your own bed. I mean, that's a comfort level right there, all to itself. But
Hmm.
sheltering in place, especially for people who don't have a bug out location that they can go to, or a family or relatives place that they can all hunker down at. That would be the relocation point. Like, for example, grandma's house could be the rally point that when stuff goes down, everybody heads there. But if you don't have any place, and sheltering in place will be the main thing that you'd want to do. Plus, if it's going to take you more than 2 hours to get there, you're not going to make it. Streets will be
Right.
blocked up with traffic, panicking people. You've got no chance of getting there. So sheltering in place, you don't have to go anywhere. You got all access to many resources. It's the ideal situation to me. But I'll stop there for now.
Absolutely. And so, Brother Sanford, and I'm glad that Brother Aaron, touched on those facts. I guess what I was looking for is what are some of the things that would cause you to have to shelter in place, um,
Okay.
like civil unrest. If you want to go into some other examples, and then we'll circle back around, Brother Aaron, if you want to add some that we may have left out.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is some civil unrest, or even a localized emergency that may not be a civil unrest. It may be a chemical spill or something in the neighborhood. It could be a fire. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
know when I was working as an officer, one time in the city I worked in, they had it was some kind of gas leak that was underground,
Mm,
and it actually some firefighters lost their lives because they didn't really know the impact of what they were going into first. And
mhm,
what that did, that isolated about a 10 block radius where everybody
mm,
had to stay in their homes and stay out of harm's way until they could try to find out exactly where the gas leak was coming from and what kind of gas it was and how far it was going. And everybody was confined to their homes. So sheltering in place can be caused by things like that. It can be caused by something that's, like, I ain't gonna say simple, but remember what happened in East Palestine
right.
when they had the train derailment, you know, that may cause you to have to shelter in place. So it can be
Mm,
a host of things that are localized that won't allow you to be even get transit, you know, throughout that. So
mhm,
I when I think about it, I think about it on that level that it's confined because you just can't get away or get out.
right. So I'll go ahead and give a few examples myself. And like you said, let me get this. Hold on. All right. And so some of the things that I'm thinking about, of course, is like the examples that you were talking about with the train derailment. A lot of things sometimes, sheltering in most cases, you might have like the pandemic where you could see it coming, but sometimes you don't see it coming. Winter storms could cause you to have to shelter in place. They just showed, I think it was someplace in Japan. I don't know where, what town or city the snow dropped, but it was up to the people's waist. And so one thing that you might have to do is shelter in place if you have a winter storm where you can't come out, where the roads are literally shut down. You cannot travel on the roads, or you'll be arrested. So that's a situation to where you'll have to shelter in place. So sheltering in place is very serious because if you're not prepared and you have to shelter in place for an extended period of time, it might be a situation where you find yourself running out of food. And you know yeah, so we're going to get a little bit more into it. And so I'll let you start us off, Brother Sanford. And um, if you want to, just go ahead and give us the scenario, and we'll go ahead and go from there.
Well, let's talk about something we may not know. Say if we hear there's an emergency situation that has begun with some kind of civil unrest, for instance,
Mm.
and and you don't get a full report from the news or something in your area, and you've been ordered to quote unquote lock down by the local law enforcement.
Mm.
Um, that's why it's always wise to maintain a certain amount of supplies on hand. I think you know how we talk about if we got to be transit, never have less than a half tank of gas. Well, they say it takes a gallon of water a day per person to function. In
Mhm.
my mind, if I'm sheltering in place, I want at least 7 days supply of some basic things that I have to have every day. And what made me think about this, I thought about earlier. We'll go to the grocery store on Saturday, okay, and
Mhm.
by Tuesday we need to run to the store again for something.
Mhm.
By Thursday we need to run to the store again for something. A lot of times those things that we run into the store again are things that we really need, and we didn't take the time, maybe because of finance or maybe because we didn't plan correctly, to have those things on hand. And I think it's time for people to start being a little self-aware and the things that you can have on hand that you need to have those things in abundance. Aaron has a saying that we all use. Two is one and one is none. So I think that it needs to be the mindset we need to have toward everything, even when sheltering in place, because there's no place like home. Aaron mentioned about being comfortable and knowing your environment. Well, that's the advantage of shelter in place because you are at home. Okay. And I'm not talking about if we have a power outage. I'm not talking about if we have a snow emergency. I'm saying that if it's something, um, see, both of you guys remember this back, and I can't remember if it was the early 80s, and it was a gentleman who was terrorizing people on the west side of Dayton,
Right.
and he had taken some hostages and stuff. And actually, where part of it happened was about 3 blocks away from where I grew up. And they had police orders then not to leave your home.
Mm.
So we can have something as I ain't gonna say it's simple, but we can have something like that happen. And all of a sudden, you need to be able to maintain where you are, but you need to be able to maintain where you are while you're maintaining it, if that makes
Right.
sense. Right. So I think the importance of preparing for everything is where we need to start putting our mindset at. I don't
Right.
think we need to wait on a snowstorm coming. You know what I mean? I don't think we need to wait on uh, uh, heavy rains. I think it's no time like the present. So if you can afford to buy an extra bag of rice, if you can afford to buy an extra 12 pack of water, I think it's time to do so just for what we might consider to be some everyday things we have to have on hand.
So that's good. So let's go into some before, during, and after as far as sheltering in place. And then you, of course, you touched on some. And so I just wanted to mention that if you have a family, one of the things that you definitely want to do is begin to have that discussion. Sit your wife down, your children down, and put out a family plan with your family, ensuring that everyone understands what their roles will be and responsibilities, and practice the plan. As Brother Aaron always says, practice the plan. Because what happens when you practice the plan is the same thing you do when you practice playing soccer or you practice playing baseball. It becomes to some degree, if you will, the term like muscle memory, right? Is that when it happens, you're not in a panic. When it happens, it's already you've practiced it, and you can move out on it immediately. So I think that that's something that definitely should be done. And I think today we have these where is it at? We have these cell phones, but I think what one of the things that we should also practice is maybe memorizing our mother and our children's telephone number. just in case. You never know. So that's something that I think I'll throw that out there. But Aaron, how about
Okay.
yourself as far as preparing?
Okay. And in a before scenario, okay, if you're putting together the first two items that you have to have right off the bat is going to be water and food in that order. You can go 3 days without water. You can go 3 weeks without food. With water, you have to understand how much you can minimally get by with to clean your body. You have to keep your toilets flushing. You have to have enough left over to wash up any sort of dishware that you're going to acquire if you don't have a bunch of paper plates, paper cups, and plasticware that you can throw away. But you will probably have to clean the pots that you cook in. And then you also have to define how much you need to drink in a day. Now, the average they have is 1 gallon of water per day per person. Now, your needs during the wintertime will be less than your water needs will be in the summertime. So you need to know, one, where can you procure the water if you run out of your inventory that you got stocked up. I recommend a minimum of 10 to 15 cases of water on hand, no matter what. And if you can go beyond that, the more the better. Then, along with understanding where, once you run through your supply, where can you procure it? Where can you find it? Do you have the means to purify it? And once purified, do you have the means to store it? So there are additives that you can add to water that will make it be shelf stable for up to 5 years. A company called Aquamera has a kit out that you mix it together, pour it into a 55-gallon drum, pour in your water, and it will keep the water good for 5 years. Bacteria and stuff will not grow in that water. So that would be one benefit. Next benefit, again, before scenario, you want to determine your caloric needs per person. Men can get by without losing weight between 2,300 to 2,500 calories. Women are 1,800 to almost 2,200 calories. Children would probably be 15 to 1,800 calories per day per person. Now, MREs are right around 1,300 to 1,500 calories, depending upon the meal. You want to pay close attention on any packaged food. It could be Coors brand rice, and you look on the back of it, and you look at the caloric content, how many servings, and you want to figure out per person to be able to give them ample food to keep their organs going and to keep their mind functioning properly. Because when you start getting water depraved and you're thirsting to death, once you go down, I believe it's 15%, you're automatically dead.
Mm.
2% is thirst, 5% is heavy thirst. From 5 to 10, you're become very listless and you start to develop something called mind fog. 10 to 15, at 15 you're dead. It
Mm.
doesn't matter. That's not very much to go down as far as liquid in your body, just 15%, but 15% spells death. So you want to pay close attention to the calories of the food. You want to get enough nutrients, and if you can, get you some vitamins and get you a multi-mineral supplement. Because if you're drinking like water from a dehumidifier, what that water will have, it will have a lack of minerals in it.
Mm.
So depending upon where you're getting your water source from, you may want to supplement it with a mineral supplement.
Mhm.
And you also want to have vitamins on hand because, again, if you're getting enough calories, you're getting enough water, you don't have to worry about brain fog. You don't have to worry about making bad decisions because you're losing the ability to think. But
Right.
understanding the caloric needs of each person, man, woman, and child. And then you also have to bear in mind how active would those people be? If it's in the
mm,
summertime, they're going to be out chopping wood and building barricades or doing whatever, their caloric needs are going to go up because they're burning a lot of calories trying to work. So you really have to sit down and almost turn it into a science, figure out what do you need to power your group that you have inside your house, and then start stockpiling those things. There are some foods that are more calorie dense than there are others. That's something that you want to start reading those labels because that's very important. Because you got to get out in front of this, you got to map all this out, plan how you're going to cook your meals, and then practice it. I mean, if you want to make some spaghetti just using hot water, then mix it up, try it out,
mhm,
see if it's palatable. If it's not, then what other sauces or things can you add to it that will make it where people eat it? Because if it's not tasty, they're not going to eat it, and when they don't eat, they become not malnourished. So you want to practice what meals that you're going to cook, what foods will have long shelf life that you can stock that don't require refrigeration in case the power grid's down. You can even experiment with some dehydrated foods. Mountain House and Peak Refuel are two of the better brands that I know of that's out there food wise. That's tastes pretty good. But you also have to determine, do you have salt sensitivities or are you diabetic? Do you have to read the labels to see how much sugar or natural sugars or whatever is in a product? All these things come into being weighed out because uh, you get somebody and they don't have access to insulin because the power grid's down, they weren't able to keep their insulin cool. That now it becomes very important how much sugar their body's getting because their body's already not processing the sugar well. I mean, you have to examine each individual step, and anything that you leave out, somebody will suffer. I met a girl one time that she had allergy to, I guess you would call it spaghetti sauce. But there was
mm,
something in spaghetti sauce that would be life threatening for her. Some people have peanut allergies. Some people have milk allergies. Depending upon your group, you need to know all these things in advance. So when you put your food pantry together, it's going to be palatable and safe for everybody that's in that house. But I'll
mhm.
stop there for right now, Steve, in case you guys want to jump in.
Yeah, that's good. That's definitely good. One of the things that I wanted to throw in there as well is for the family to look for and identify a safe room. Choose some place an interior room, preferably above ground level. Because if you have flooding, something like that, you don't want to be in the basement. Even though if you have something like a tornado or something like that, that would be a good place to find shelter. But otherwise, a place above ground with few windows and vents, and aim for at least 10 square feet per person. Consider structural integrity and avoid rooms with large spans or those directly under a roof that could be compromised by falling debris. So if you have a big tree that's on a side of the house, that might not be, a good place to shelter in place. That's what I wanted to throw in there. And some of the materials that individuals should have that they should consider is to have like plastic sheets and duct tape, just in case, like we were talking about that train derailment. So if you have a situation like that and you have you have that those supplies on hand, you can begin to cordon that room off to where the fumes won't be able to get in and affect you in a negative way. Because I think they were just talking about a couple of days ago, coming up on the anniversary, how there are individuals who are still suffering from that train derailment. They said one guy, he was outside cutting his grass and just fell, and he died, because of inhaling those type of fumes. So it might be wise also to get you a gas mask, a gas mask that, just in case you have some type of situation like that. Those little N95 masks might be good for COVID or something like that. But if you have a situation where you have a chemical spill, then you're going to definitely need something that is going to be a little stronger. And then there are ways you can go online and make you a gas mask with charcoal, and some other materials. But I'll go ahead and let you chime on in, brother Sanford.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'm talking about is less disaster and more man-made conditions. So
Mm,
you know how we talk about, excuse me, how we talk about maybe I said civil unrest
yeah,
or some kind of disturbance in neighborhoods where you have all your power and you have all your resources and everything's working, but you just can't leave or it's not
right,
safe to leave. And I think that's one thing people never think about because I think we get the mindset if it's a disaster that keeps us from going somewhere, well, we just can't leave. But I'm saying you can't leave because of the danger of the conditions in the neighborhood.
mm-hmm,
That's what I'm talking about. Dangers of the conditions in the environment. Because we 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 right now we have to have a mindset going, especially with the deportation going and all the other things that sometimes it's just it may not be safe to us to be out in certain areas right now.
right,
So when I'm talking about shelter in place, I'm talking about from the aspect of all the conditions around you are you seem to be your normal living conditions, except when you step out of your neighborhood.
mm-hmm,
So the psychological part that comes along with that. So what Aaron was saying first about when you prepare, how you have those discussions, I think that's one of the things we need to have a discussion about with our families. That if this happens, this is how we may have to be here for 3 or 4, 5, 6 days.
right,
I don't believe the average person has enough self-awareness to stay in the house 3 days and be disciplined enough not to go see what's going on. I don't. And I
right,
think those kind of things are things we need to talk about with our family members. That if we have some outbreak of violence or something that happens, it may not be right where we're at, but in the vicinity where we're at, and you can't go to work, you can't get on the highway because they got highways blocked or something, that you need to have some of these central things ready. So how he talked about enough food and water, which are the most important things, you know, medicines he talked about, which is high on the list. I think we also need to talk about the mental stability
right,
that it's going to take to maintain a certain amount of discipline. Create somebody who's a point man or point person. If you need to send somebody out to find out what's going on because you don't think you're getting all the information from the news, where you got a line of communication with that one person. Everybody doesn't need to leave the area. Making sure you know about locking your doors and how to secure your doors in different ways, other than just that door lock. There's several items you can buy that help enhance door locks. Um, some strategies if you got people walking through the neighborhood and you don't want them to know in your house. So when you talked about having things you can put over the window,
mm-hmm,
just so they don't know if somebody's there or not. I really, really do believe that we're going to enter a tough time here real soon, where we
right,
face some uncomfortable situations in our neighborhoods, and it may not be
mm-hmm,
all. It may not be all, but I want to implore upon people that you exercise some wisdom and you exercise some discipline where you don't have to go. Everybody doesn't have to go see what's going on, and don't take your cell phone camera so you can see what's happening. You know, I think we need to exercise some discipline and some ideals about if things happen in our area, what can we do to maintain in our area until these things pass. You know,
Absolutely.
we had riots in the '60s, and look what happened. Was when was Rodney King 90 the 92 91 90 was it that
Mm.
or was it later? Was 90 early '90s?
Yep.
And
Early
they had
90s.
neighborhoods where the people in the neighborhoods literally couldn't come out. They were stuck in their businesses because
Mm.
they couldn't come out because it wasn't safe. You know, what was it back in 2009, 2010, where they had after some police officers had an incident with a gentleman that passed away in their custody, and they had riots in a particular street, particular
Mm-hmm.
vicinity, a couple of blocks in Maryland, right outside of D.C., and people were confined to their homes for a while. Uh, Heck, in Seattle, was that in Seattle when was it when COVID first started? I can't remember. And a group of
Mm-hmm.
people took over a whole neighborhood.
Right. Right.
Civilians took
Sorry
over a
about
whole
that.
neighborhood, and the police couldn't even get in to help the people who needed help. So they had people who needed to go to the doctors. They had people who had to go get dialysis. They had people who couldn't go get groceries, and the people in the neighborhood basically held them hostage.
Mm.
So I think
Mm.
we need to. I think we're at a place too where we better prepare for that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And yeah, that mindset today definitely has to be on preparedness, because we have so much dissatisfaction. And I know that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said that dissatisfaction brings about a change. And when you have 100% dissatisfaction, you have 100% change. And I think that if you listen to C-SPAN every morning, there is 100% dissatisfaction. The Democrats are dissatisfied, the Republicans are dissatisfied, the independents are dissatisfied, those that don't even vote are dissatisfied. So, we do have a climate in this country. And let me put this on the screen. I just want to put this, I searched on YouTube, for civil unrest. And there was a number of different, let me see if you all can see this. There was a number of different, people are talking about it. And this first one right here. Our government is preparing for civil unrest elections. That was 5 months ago, 3 months ago. Prepare for civil unrest. Um, that one was 4 years ago, 10 months ago. Most of these, though, are fairly recent, within 2 years. This one's how long will society last during a total grid collapse? Um, when you hear, I think, when you begin to, hear this type of talk, and then you see Hollywood getting into it with a number of different movies talking about civil unrest. And I think even when you look at what was that? The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead. I mean, really, I think that, people, they're trying to put this in people's minds, and for a good reason, because there is, that possibility of civil unrest. And then when it breaks out, you definitely don't want to be in the street, because Americans have a lot of guns. I forget how many guns that they say Americans have, but it's a lot. And so you definitely don't want to be out in the street, because it just wouldn't be advisable. One of the things that, like, we're talking about is stocking up on non-perishable food and water, as Brother Aaron was talking about earlier. And this is real serious, So design a place in your home where you can start you a pantry. And if you're not able to grow food, and you have to, get canned food, I mean, it's better than nothing. Of course, there's the ingredients in some of those canned foods that keep the foods preserved, like formaldehyde. But the thing about it is that when you're hungry, you're hungry. So yeah, definitely look at getting canned foods. And also, one of the things that you want to think about having is something sweet. So, you can go to some of these stores and you can get you a big old box of rock candy or whatever, something to just suck on that's going to be sweet, because really the truth is that most of the food that we're going to have stored up, um, to some degree, is not going to be the most tasty of foods, um, but you definitely want to have something like that. Another thing to have when you're sheltering in place is some board games, because you're going to be bored. So you need some board games, because if by some chance your phone doesn't charge up or whatever, then you can sit around and play some board games. So board games and books. A lot of us, we have books on our devices, but like I said, if that power goes out and you're not able to access those books on your device, that could be a very long sheltering in place. So that's some of the things that I wanted to throw up in there as well.
Okay,
So
let
let's.
me add a little bit more at this time. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know if I should or shouldn't, but you can set up things that would deny access to your property, or having a camera set up, a security system set up that you can record would be ideal, because that would give you an early warning. If you feel it's unsafe for you to travel outside and you're not sure, purchase you a drone with a good hand controller system, and you can set it outside on the ground and send it up in the air, and you can take it around the perimeter of your property. You can go up and down the block and go around the block. You can see what's going on and what threats could possibly be coming towards you. Um, there's things that you could put over your windows. There's stuff that you can put outside of windows, like thorn bushes or whatever, that would have at least an inch to 2 inch long thorns. So if someone tried to break out your window and try to crawl in, that thorn bush would be nature's barbed wire fence, to say. And then even on the inside of your window sill, you can take 2x4s and drive nails up through them, and then shoot a screw at them and put them inside the window sill. And if someone tried to jump up and grab, they'd pretty well impale themselves, and it would deny them access to those windows. Pushing your furniture up around your doors to make a barricade would also deny access. Or you can buy the barricade L-shaped bars from Home Depot and use 4-inch screws to shoot them in on both sides of your door. And you just put a steel bar down behind the door, or 2x4, and it sits in that L-shaped bracket that holds it and holds the door shut in the event someone was trying to gain access. But
Hmm.
you also have to determine tactically, you have to look at your neighborhood and your house, and do you have windows that face all four sides of your house? Can you defend, or is there a blind spot? If there is a blind spot, can you get some mouse traps with some firecracker type trips and run some
Hmm.
lines back there so that you can hear or see if somebody's back there? They even make flare traps to shoot a flare up in the air in the event that something's there. When you hear it, you automatically know that you got some people with bad intentions trying to sneak up on you through your blind spot. And you can take a defensive position and be waiting on them to come around the corner. But you should really take a hard look at what you've got. And if you do have a blind spot, can you put a camera in that area so that you can see? Or again, do you have a drone that you can send out that can view? And if it has some sort of heat sensing ability for nighttime, you can pick up their thermal signature. They do have
Hmm.
drones that have that. They're a little bit more pricier, but there's a drone that I'm thinking of. It's made by DJI, and it's about $800 with the controller. It's very small. You can hold it in your hand, but it's got an excellent camera system. I believe it's got a 1 or 2 mile range on it. So you can literally circle your blocks and you can
Mhm.
see what's going on. And I mean, that's a combat multiplier when you can see any threat coming at you well before it poses a threat. Even you might even want to have non-lethal stuff. I mean, one of the things I have on my table this weekend at the gun show is pepper ball guns.
Mm.
Uh, in the event rioters are approaching your house or something, you may not want to start off with lethal force, but a pepper ball gun or something would be able to deliver a certain amount of pain and a little bit of deterrence, and you might be able to drive them off. Heck, a BB gun or pellet rifle might can drive off some people to where that you don't
Mhm.
have to go lethal. You can have a less lethal force. You can have cans of bear spray on hand that get up on your front porch and they're breaking out your windows. If you got a window in your door where you can shoot it right through at them, um, again, you don't have to kill them, but to have both lethal and non-lethal force to help assist you in hardening your home would be great. I mean, if you got weight
Mhm.
plates around the house, steel weights, you can put them up against your windows and then take your closet doors off the hinges and place as a backstop behind them and use a couch or something to hold it in place. Bullets will not shoot through them weight plates, especially those
Mm.
big 45 pounders. I mean, they're thick, they're made of steel. Bullets are going to bounce off of them. You can fill up pants with dirt, shovel dirt. I mean, slit the pants down the middle, sew them, make giant bags out of them, and you can make improvised sandbags to put up in your windows. But if you can go buy you some sandbags, I would suggest having them on hand because uh, you don't want someone just to walk up and hold a shotgun up and just start spraying rounds into your living room. If you can block off certain windows, and if you got an elevated point that you can shoot down from, that would be all better. I mean, you have to sit down and plan everything out and uh, have some sort of communication because you
Mhm.
got to be able to call for help to your neighbors, to your relatives, to the local authorities. You've got to have it, but knowing that there could be rioters, and then from what I'm understanding, the uh, cartels are talking about declaring war on ICE agents and Border Patrol. But if their money is greatly affected, the war is going to spread. I saw what happened when the cartels went up against the Colombian government and they were
Mm.
planting car bombs and they was doing drive-bys and shooting up areas and stuff. Uh,
Right.
anything active shooter type scenarios would cause you to want to stay in the safety of your house and not venture out. I mean, there's many threats out there, and the more you ask yourself the question, "What if?" and "What will my response be?" the better you can plan out what assets and resources you need to have in place. And in doing that, you increase your chances of making it through a situation. I mean, if you can just sit in your house and do nothing, that would be ideal. But what if you have to defend yourself? What if uh, somebody wants to come by and throw fire bombs at your house? Do you have a fire extinguisher? Do you have a gas mask? Do you have different things? If there's a chemical threat, if there's a biological threat, again, what would I possibly face? What if this happens? Then start mapping out what things you need to be acquiring ahead of time to get out in front of it. So when it happens, you already have a thing in place and you can handle it. But
Right.
I'll stop there right now in case you guys want to jump in.
Well,
You know,
that we'll get in.
something you said, brother Muhammad. That's true that people don't think about when you
Mm.
mentioned about knowing phone numbers
Mm.
because we are so used to the cell phone and just hitting it according to an icon or a picture and dialing that number. You know that's something I think is important. I think that you can get little small whiteout boards if you got children too, and you can actually write mom, write the phone number down, write dad, the phone number down, the neighbor, the phone number down. So in the if something happens and they can't think or it's not accessible to them with the one punch, they can look up that number and make a call like that. I think that's such an important thing people never talk about, man. I'm glad
Hmm.
you mentioned that because I'm telling you, I know a
Yeah.
lot of people say I don't even know my own phone number.
Right. Right.
You
And
know,
that's true.
yeah, yeah,
Some people don't even know their own phone number. And another number that, we should try to memorize, every family member should know the memorize the phone number of another family member that's not in their area, not in their state, if possible, because if you can't shelter in place and you do have to evacuate and you don't have the ability because maybe the cell lines are jammed up, if they do still have, a wired connected line and you have to punch in them digits,
right,
then you can give them a call and get the heck up on out of Dodge. So,
right,
yeah, this
right.
you definitely wanted to mention that. And something that Brother Aaron, mentioned, I think is important, and we touched on it just a little bit, is to make sure that, if there is some type of chemical attack, because we don't know what type of attack, when we're talking about civil unrest, it could come in all different shape, forms, and sizes, right? And so one of the things, if we do have a chemical attack, once again, the best thing to do, and I'll read off this list, is to seal up the room. It says use thick plastic sheets and duct tape to seal all windows, doors, and air vents in your chosen safe room. Measure and cut the plastic sheets larger than the opening. Label each sheet for easy identification if you need to reuse them. Apply the sheet to the outside of the window or door frame if possible, starting at the top and working down, securing the duct tape. Pay particular attention to corners and edges. It says seal any gaps or cracks around pipes or other entry points. So that's something that, if there is some type of chemical attack, you know, people should definitely have some duct tape and, some of these plastic sheets that they can get to seal up their windows and doors, and to remember to cut off the air. So you might have that air running, and you done covered up the windows and everything, and now it's just blowing in through the air vents. So that's another thing. And also, for people who have chimneys, that they might want to think about sealing that up. And there is a device where you could put up into your chimney, and you can blow it up, and it will seal that off. So that's another thing to think about right there. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Let me ask you a
Um,
question, Aaron. Let me ask you a question. I know we know, but what do you think would be some everyday things that people have at home in case say we do have some civil unrest and people want to try to come into your house and say they don't have a firearm and they may have knives and scissors and stuff like that. But what are the kind of things you think people can use, even with aerosols or something that can offer some line of defense or deter somebody from entering the home without, somebody they don't want into the house?
Well, you have melee weapons. One example would be a baseball bat. If you want to give it more lethality, you can drive 4-inch nails through it and have a spiked bat if you had to, or you can drill it and drive screws through it. You can take a mop handle or broom handle, unscrew it if it's unscrewable. If it's not, cut it off with a saw. And you can take a butcher knife and put the handle against the end of the broom handle and wrap it with duct tape real tight. And that's going to give you an improvised spear that you can use to strike with. Now, some hairspray cans and stuff, if you hold a lighter in front of it and spray, it turns into an improvised flamethrower. There's many weapons. I mean, you can even take hot sauce and mix it with a little water, pour some black pepper in and some stuff and smear it all over your hands. And if you slap toward their eyes or whatever, it's almost like being hit with pepper spray. It makes where their eyes are going to slam shut. They can't see the fight. Um, Man, there's so many different things. You've got hammers, you got sledgehammers. Uh, that the back of a regular claw hammer is an effective weapon to use. Um, Man, there's so much. And everybody that's got a butcher block, I mean, you got multiple knives there that can be utilized in a situation. I mean, if you got a butcher block, the last thing a person want to do would be to corner you in the kitchen when you got a whole butcher block of knives to throw and swing and hit with. But you can use wasp spray, raid to spray into somebody's face. There's many things that a person can use, or you could be like me. You can have weapons hanging on the wall. Just reach up and grab whatever you need. Because I already thought that situation through.
I
Right.
talked to some college girls one time, and I said they were talking about they don't have anything, and they were talking about the knives, and I said, you got glasses, drinking glasses, don't you? You could break those drinking glasses up, put them in a pillowcase, and all of a sudden you have a very lethal weapon in your hands there that you can use with some velocity if you wanted to. I was taught, this is the reason I asked you, because I know you and I was taught that almost everything can be used as a weapon, almost. Yeah.
Correct.
So,
And then you all, like you all are saying, you got common cleaning supplies, like bleach.
yeah,
Get some of that bleach, throw it in the person's eyes, you know? And it's funny that, you watch some of these movies, right? And they have somebody that'll break into their house and they'll go and hide in the closet. And you're thinking to yourself, it's your house. Go
right,
get a knife out the kitchen. Why are you running to the closet? You know, and like Aaron said, like if all you have to do is have a creative mind, because there's a number of different chemicals that you can mix, and that can become lethal. So that's definitely, like you all are saying, just be creative. A lot of things that we have around our home right now we could use as a weapon. We don't even really need to go out and get anything special, so to speak. We got it right in our homes. So yeah, that's really good.
right. But the reason I wanted to
Um,
bring that up is because I said earlier, I think the average person wouldn't make it 3 days, just because the mind, you're so used to living a certain way and running a certain way and programmed to do certain thing. The things right in front of you, you go right past.
mhm,
That's
mhm,
that's the reason I wanted to bring it up. That's the reason. So when you mention those things, that's perfect, because those simple things that are right in front of you. I saw somebody fighting with a dog, and the other person was trying to get the dog off of him. And I said,
mm,
"You got a belt on? Put the belt around the dog's throat."
mhm.
But you don't think about that. You
Right.
know,
Panic.
you got a shirt on. Take the shirt off and wrap the shirt around. It's a lot of things that are right at your disposal we don't think about. So that's the reason I brought
Yeah.
that up. I got a
So
quick
I mean,
question, Joe. Have you
yeah,
gentlemen heard about the plan that they have for NATO to come here and do a summit in this area, in the Dayton area?
I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that yet.
yeah, be in
Well,
May.
yep, NATO is planning to have a summit here in the Dayton, Ohio area, downtown Dayton at the Schuster Center.
Huh.
And it lasts about a week, right, Aaron? I think it's a week. And so they have a particular area that they're calling what is it, NATO Village or something, that they're squaring off.
NATO Village. Yeah.
And for like
And
10 to 14 days, you won't have access to any of this area, because we got representatives, dignitaries from 32 countries coming in.
Wow.
And
And
so
and and that once again just points out that when it comes down to Dayton, Ohio, it's a target. It's a target for foreign powers because of right pat. Like you said, you have NATO coming here. They just had, what was it, the with Clinton, I think it was the peace thing. I forget what the name of it was right now, that they had right here in Dayton. So Dayton is a very strategic target, if you would, um, for attack. So yeah, that's powerful right there. I remember, I don't know if
This
you
week,
all remember, out on 35, they had some type of military drills where they literally had, um, troopers jumping out of helicopters, going down right there off of 35. And the thing about it is that the people, I don't think that they were alerted, so they were, alarmed. And so, yeah, that was something that people weren't even aware of, and they probably won't be aware of this NATO thing until the day of.
well, this week at Right Pat, this weekend going into next week, uh, part of it's going to be shut down because they're running preparedness drills,
Hmm.
and even the museum for I think 4 days or 5 days is going to be shut down to the public because of these preparedness drills that they're doing. So I mean, with them doing all this stuff, they're getting ready for something. I mean, there's no doubt in my
Hmm.
mind that they believe that something can happen or something's going to happen, and they're getting their cards in place for the continuity of government. So,
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I did want to mention, and I know you all touched on it, is to make sure that we have us a emergency supply kit. Definitely need to have us an emergency supply kit that's stocked. So if we've been sneaking band-aids out of our emergency supply kit to put around our a bunion on our toe, then we need to make sure that we have enough band-aids and other type of materials in our emergency supply kit. So I definitely wanted to throw that in there, because a lot of us, we don't have an emergency supply kit in our home, and so we definitely need to have one of those on hand, or maybe one or two. As a matter of fact, put one in one room and one in another room just in case, and one in the car.
I, I think
So.
one of the things we need to take in consideration, when COVID happened and how we got isolated to a certain degree, the things that we missed having everyday access to during COVID ought to be the things that we readily have available. The things
Hmm.
that you miss. So as simple as bathroom tissue, you know, um, the paper towels, the toothpaste, the stuff. I think those things we need to have readily available, just because those are the everyday things that we miss going to get 2 or 3 days a week, because we said, oh, I'll go Tuesday, go pick up this. I'll go Thursday, go pick up this. I think it's a time to actually start like stocking up on those kind of things a little bit at a time. I
Hmm.
think that's wisdom.
Hmm. And I think
with COVID,
another thing to to do is go around and take a picture of items in your home, just in case something happens where you may have to evacuate, or that your home gets broken into, for insurance reasons. Go ahead and try to film or take a picture of all the items that are in your home, so that when it comes down to uh approaching the insurance agency, you got pictures to show that you had these materials. So that's another thing to think about. Yeah.
well, I was just going to add that
Mhm.
under COVID, we should have learned that the just in time thing that we've gotten used to all these years, that failed miserably under COVID. The supply chain is easily broken. It's very weak in nature, and will get it there just in time for you to need it is was ridiculous, and it caused a lot of shortages. And the fact that we don't manufacture hardly anything anymore also created shortages. And in the event that we get into it, our enemies, anything that they're shipping to us now, they will cut the supply chain and not ship to us. And then there we
Right.
are short on things. And then the American public will start turning on each other, fighting over resources. I mean, right now, you have some states that can't even get eggs right now. And I
Mm,
told Sanford this morning, I got a cousin in California because of the fires and everything that's done happen there. A dozen eggs is $14 now.
mm.
And
I saw
then
that.
somewhere up toward Troy or Piqua, uh, they got cartons of eggs out that only has 4 eggs in it. I call that shrinkflation, but you're paying close to $4 for 4 eggs. It's like $3.99 or something. And
Right.
as things get worse, food can become scarce. But if you got it stockpiled, you have the ability to last. If you're going out with this just in time mentality that you'll buy it as you need it or that you got a taste for it, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Big time.
But I'll stay there for now.
And like you said, when I did that interview with Brian Reisinger, one of the things that he talked about was the disappearance of the family farm is a major food security risk because, like you said, that supply chain, a lot of not only do we get a lot of materials, shirts and shoes and what other type of items from China or India or whatever, but food as well. And if that supply chain goes down and you don't have that type of family farm or community garden, then that also is it's going to be rough because like you were saying, you may have the food on the shelf, but guess what? You won't be able to afford that food that's on the shelf. And that's one of the things that they talked about over there in Palestine. They were saying that there was food there, even though they were talking about famine, they had grocery stores that had food, but the people weren't able to afford the food. And so that's another issue that people really have to think about is that you may have food, but you may not have to be able to afford it. And if you do afford it, guess what? It's just like what you all were saying. It's a thing out there called shrinkflation. So you'll be getting the food, but you'll be getting less than probably what you need to survive. So that's something to think about as well. And
And
one more
another
thing too,
reason, okay,
just real quick, is that the food nowadays too is that you got to consider that the food that you're getting for the most part is highly processed, so it won't have a lot of nutritional value that Brother Aaron continues to talk about. So that's why it's important for us to if we can to purchase food where we can the food, and I'll be happy to have sister on to go into how we can do that or how we can get someone to even can food for us if you don't can the food. So that's something to really think about if you have somebody like that in your area. Mhm.
and then I like to add
Uh,
another reason for stocking up ahead of time is so that when civil unrest occurs and whatever's happening outside your house, which changes everything from normal to almost turns it into hell, uh, the longer you can hold out, the better. If you can go weeks or even months, it's good for you because if you have to leave your house to go to any store where the looters are going to be at, you're setting yourself up to almost get killed or severely hurt. Um, let's say that you go to a grocery store, you got some gold and silver coins in your pocket, and they're
mm,
saying that they're not taking the American dollar right now. And you hold it up on the glass window and they open the door and let you in. Now, How are you going to get that grocery cart back through that crowd to get to your car? And before anybody says it, yeah, I know you got a gun on you, but probably 100 other people out there got guns on them too, and they're waiting on you to come back out with that food. So if you can go out the store's back door and have a car meet you around back, it'd be safer for you than to try to fight your way through that crowd that's waiting on you to come out there with all that food. If you can
Mm-hmm.
stay stable at home and not have to go out on it, then you can be in the safety of your home and watch the chaos on TV of what's going on. But if you have to leave your home to go get supplies, you are in trouble. And it's going to be extremely dangerous for you to go out there. I don't care if you got to go get gasoline at a gas station, if you got to go to a grocery store, if you got to go to a pharmacy, you're going to run into groups of people, and even those that will be out on the roadways trying to jack you. So, and then you have those that will try to follow you home, that will try
Right.
to do harm to you and your family. I mean, follow home robberies was a big thing last year. And a lot of people need to take that in consideration to be aware of your surroundings and notice if you got someone following you back to your house or not.
Let me ask you,
Mm-hmm.
gentlemen, a question. When you talk about the non-perishable items, and Brother Muhammad's talking about the young lady that does the canning or whatever, what would you consider to be the best non-perishable items?
Dry goods, rice, beans,
Mm-hmm.
oatmeal, grits, because those that's going to give you your longest shelf life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, things that have oil in it will only be good for a year. I mean, like white rice, you could probably get 25, 30 year shelf life out of it if you store it in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. But brown rice, which happens to be more nutritious, it has oil in it, and the oil goes rancid after 3 or 4 years. I mean, it's great to have peanut butter on the shelf, but after 4 years, it's going to go rancid. So that's the reason
Mm-hmm.
why it's important to rotate stuff in and out. Know what is in the ingredients, and if it has any sort of oil, you're going to have to rotate through that faster. But dry
Mm-hmm.
goods is better, and freeze dried foods has got the long shelf life with the dry goods. I mean, just a bag of rice and a bag of beans is going to give you a certain amount of protein and carbohydrate. Anything else you add to it adds to the nutrition, but you just about will get all that you need. And if you only had one food to pick, potatoes, you got a variety of different potatoes and they have all the nutrients in it. I mean, there's a lot of people that in World War II, that's all they had to eat was raw potatoes, basically, and it got them through.
Mm-hmm.
So it pays to learn what you can. Don't sit back and assume you know it all. Uh, Try to learn as much as you can and share that knowledge with your family so that knowledge will continue to uh, be passed down. I mean, I've got notebooks that I've prepared up that I have the clear plastic sheets that you can stick papers down in between. And I'm setting up notebooks of information for my grandchildren. So if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not here to teach them, uh, that information will be handed down one way or another. I'm preparing what I
Yeah.
call a hard copy of information for the children. But
If
Yeah,
I'll
that's
if
stop
good.
there. For you.
if somebody had to, if say they had a limited amount of resources, and they had to say, okay, I can do three certain canned vegetables, or what would you think would be the best three vegetables to do?
Mm.
Man, vegetables.
Well,
Beans is definitely a must
yeah,
have no
beans.
matter what. Um, then I like corn myself. Uh, Man, because it depends upon if you're seeking carbohydrates or if
Well,
you're
you're seeking
seeking
some kind of
protein.
nutrition. So, like for instance, corn is delicious, but it really has no nutritional value.
Mm-hmm. I
Right.
think
Uh,
I know that what we have, and but there's an issue with it. But navy beans, we got like a 50 pound bags of navy beans, and uh, they, the only thing you have to make sure is that you keep them in an area where there won't be moisture, but the navy beans are really, really hard and dense. So the thing about preparing them is that you're going to have some type of way of putting them in water and getting them soft so that you can eat them. But as far as storing navy beans, unless you have some type of rodent infestation, you can just put them in a corner in your home, and the navy beans are going to last you for a good long time. But like I said, you can get one of those little propane stoves, and then of course if you live around woods and you just go onto YouTube, you can learn how to use a can and cut it in such a way that you put a little bit of wood and you can make that a stove, and boil water. And so I think water is another, big issue when it comes down to survival. So aside from the food, you're gonna have to be able to store water, or you're gonna have to be able to purify the water that you can catch from, like, just rainwater or something like that. Otherwise, that water, you're gonna only be able to use it to maybe water your plants, or maybe take a bath or something like that. But yeah, you'll definitely have to purify that water so that you can, prepare some food with it.
So let me ask again, and I'm doing this now as the person on the outside who may be looking at us or listening and thinking about their situation. So that's why I'm asking the questions. Um,
Hmm.
so say if I'm the single mom and I'm on a limited budget, what should I where should I start?
Again,
Hmm.
some vegetables are high in carbohydrates. Then there's some that are high in protein. I know beans would have the protein. Now, when you're saying vegetables, are we talking canned or are we talking out of the garden?
Well, I mean, I'm going to assume that most people don't don't have a garden, and most people don't even have access to a garden because they have not prepared that way. So let's talk about canned. I'm kind of,
Hmm.
and like I
Okay.
said, I'm doing this from the outside coming in. If I was somebody who didn't know anything, I was looking to you guys for some knowledge.
Yeah.
So let's
I,
go.
I would
Let's say
definitely,
assume canned stuff then.
Hmm.
okay, I would definitely have black beans and pinto beans. That would be a must for me.
Hmm.
Uh, I probably have some sort of canned potatoes and or potato flakes that I can make potatoes out of, and because that would cover some of my starch. And then I know peas are highly nutritious, but I have to be honest with you, I don't much like peas too well. But maybe black eyed peas I could tolerate better than I can green ones.
Hmm.
Because I mean, because I eat squash, I eat zucchini, but all these things I get out of my garden. I have cucumbers. Uh, I don't know outside of what's fresh out of my garden. And knowing that you're talking canned, I'd have to go with the two types of beans and either canned potatoes, or canned potato flakes. What would you throw in there, Sanford? Because I know I'm leaving something out.
Well, I think beans is probably the number one thing
Yeah.
that both of you mentioned. I um I do believe that you and I made a joke one time. You were talking about your dad. Me and your dad had a taste interest one time when you asked me about sardines. I said, "Yeah, I would eat sardines with mustard and crackers."
That's what I was gonna say. Some sardines, herrings, um, uh, and two, if you can, when you get the canned beans and things like that, try to get you because sometimes they have cans with those liners and stuff that are not healthy for you. They got chemicals that leach into the food. So try to get you some in the department of Kroger's and things like that, they have kosher canned foods. So I would look to try to get you some of those type of canned foods, because if you're going to be eating these foods for an extended period of time, with those chemicals in them, they could make you sick, by the time things are over. So definitely look at getting you some kosher canned foods. But I would say that one of the things that you definitely want to have if you do get canned foods is a can opener. And that might be a big something that a person might overlook, because a lot of things that we have nowadays in our home are electric, and so we just put that can under the electric can opener and it opens it up for us. But we definitely want to have a manual can opener. And then, like you were saying, with the sardines and things like that, and of course, people they get them oatmeal. That's something that um people can look at stocking up on. um and then some people, even look at the ramen or ramen, however you pronounce it, noodles. The only thing, of course, about that is that there's no nutritional value
Right.
in those noodles. And then you definitely don't want to add the flavoring to it, because I think it's got MSG in it. But that's some of the things that if push comes to shove and you need to stock up on some non-perishable food, you can look at it and in that direction. Hmm.
Well, let me
And
go back and
definitely.
say, definitely pinto
Mm.
beans, definitely black beans, um, canned potatoes of different types, and I probably would have greens as well. Now, someone just texted me mixed vegetables, which I don't know why I forgot that because I got mixed vegetables in the refrigerator now. But I would definitely have those particular things because I like different types of greens, and you got to have some greens to help keep you loose so you don't get blocked up. Keep gives you a
Hmm.
little fiber and things. But yeah, that those would be the ones I would go with for sure.
And it might be good to even look into some of those protein bars, because like I keep saying, you just don't want to, if you can imagine beans, that's cool for a little while, but after a while, eating beans, I'm ready for death. So I think maybe get, some protein bars or something like that, can give you some protein and a little bit of pleasure eating it, is something to really look into as well. Yeah. So I guess we can begin to wrap it up. Uh, let's say, after the shelter in place is over. Some of the things that it talks about is staying informed, continue to monitor official news sources for updates and instructions, access your surroundings. Once it's safe to leave, be cautious and assess your surroundings for hazards. So, for instance, in the winter or during any type of storm, one of the things you definitely want to look out for is down power lines, because there's a number of situations where you hear about people who walk outside their home, maybe in the dark or whatever. You definitely want to have a flashlight. And if you see any type of puddles of water, you want to be careful to step in those puddles of water, because they could be electrified. And there's a number of different, news stories from the past where people have been electrocuted because they just stepped in a puddle of water and didn't know that it was electrified. So that's something to definitely look out for. And then it says seek assistance if needed. Seek assistance from emergency responders or other support organizations. So that's some of the things to do after the shelter in place is lifted or that you can come outside of your home. Yeah. And if I can put just a little spiritual aspect to shelter in place, in the Bible, there was a call to shelter in place in the Bible as well. And Moses, Moses gave out that call. He said to the children of Israel to go inside of their homes and paint the lamb's blood of life over their doorpost. And so the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said the lamb's blood of life means that you want to, if you have the shelter in place, he said, our righteousness will sustain us. So we want to, even before these disasters and things start to happen, we want to try to get our life in order. We want to try to get our, if you believe in a supreme being, then we want to begin to connect ourselves, because one of the things I think that you were talking about, Brother Sanford, is that you know we don't want to go into these type of situations and literally lose our mind, or have a situation to where we've wronged some people, and now here's a situation where, yeah, I'm gonna get back at such and so, and then they come and they shoot up your home. So we definitely want to begin to get our life in order and have a civil relationship with individuals in our communities and who are around us, so that we can get support and so that we can support them, because in Moses, it said that the angel of death, and we don't have to make it spooky or anything. The angel of death could just be an individual who's in the neighborhood going and breaking into people's homes. So if we have that type of community relationship in our neighborhoods, then we can look out for each other when it comes down to sheltering in place as well. So just want to throw that in there. Um,
I just received a text from somebody. I guess
mm,
they're watching it, and somebody, I guess, on the chat put in there and said something about guarding your privacy,
mhm,
you know. And then they mentioned some foods. They mentioned quinoa, lentils, collard mustard greens, spinach. Yeah, all nutritious, all very nutritious items.
mhm,
That right, right. So when I ask those questions, I already know the answers in my head. I'm trying to do it from what I think the common person might be asking or thinking about.
mhm.
When we're doing these things, I I enjoy the fact that people find it informative. I think that's a great thing that we're doing. Then, if they find it informative,
Absolutely. Those lentils, that's a really good idea.
that is a great idea because you
Yeah,
can
the
make soup. You
lentils
can
is
do.
just
I
like
mean,
the beans.
that's right. That'll stretch too, buddy.
Mhm.
Lentils will stretch. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great idea. Yeah.
So like you were saying with the potatoes and the rice, those will really fill you up. And that's why they give you, truth be told, when you go to these fast food restaurants and they always give you fries, which are potatoes, the reason why is because those fries will fill you up, and they're easy to grow. If anybody knows that they've had potatoes in their home, and they forgot that it was underneath the counter, and they go and look, it's already starting to grow. And all you got to do is basically cut it in half and stick it in some mud, and you're going to have some potatoes growing. Another good food that's easily grown is beans. Just throw some beans and let them just shoot up a stick or something like that, and you'll have some beans. So there are some foods that are easy to grow as well. if you're not a master gardener or anything like that, onions, as brother Aaron was saying, if we knew how to forage, we could actually, find onions in the ground if we
Right.
knew what they look like. So that's those type of foods. I'm gonna do a little bit of research on some easy to grow foods and hopefully present that the next program that we do.
The one thing I
All
do
right.
have that I would encourage people to get, I have an aloe vera plant.
Mm,
And if you look up all the value you can get out of aloe vera, it's unbelievable. I mean, from
mm,
medicinal to nutritional, I say aloe vera is something that you can buy aloe vera plant for literally nothing. And as
mm-hmm,
long as you water it correctly, it will grow. And it will continue to grow as long as you repot it and water it. It will grow. So I think
mm-hmm.
aloe vera is a very valuable thing that people don't pay attention to and overlook. For some
Yeah,
natural remedies and stuff that you can have on hand. So I would
yeah,
encourage people to get an aloe vera plant and start with that too.
yeah. That's good. Yep, the aloe vera. So, brothers, I don't know if you all wanted to just end it with that, or if you wanted to just briefly touch on some current events. That's fine as well.
Yeah.
Now we can hit the
So,
current events hard next week because there'll be a lot
okay.
of them.
Whew. Oh boy, there's like news going on every day. I just wanted to and like you said, we'll just touch on some, but I just wanted to let people know to look in there, look in the news. They're talking about some type of asteroid that could possibly strike the earth. So I want people to definitely take a look at that. The flu season. It seems like a lot of schools are closing down because of the flu. So I just wanted to let people know to be mindful of your health, get you some sun, get you 30 minutes of exercise every day, and take you some vitamins, vitamin C, the elderberry. There is what golden seal, um, zinc. These type of vitamins are good to boost your immune system. Black seed oil. These are good for your immune system. And yeah, yep. Just wanted to throw those two in there real quick.
And you know
Um,
what? Another thing, man, I want to
mhm,
say real quick too, brother. You're talking about the nutrition and stuff. You know, deep breaths, man, deep breathing.
mhm,
A quiet moment of meditation and focusing on what you want, not what you don't want.
mhm.
They used to have. Remember, it used to be a commercial saying, "Mind is a terrible thing to waste."
Right.
So yeah, man, increase where you are upstairs, man. You know,
Mhm,
and we talk about the breathing, man, the nitric oxide and all those things. You got to take care of yourself first. That's
mhm.
exactly right, man. Yeah,
Yep. So that's good. Like you said, breathing properly, getting you a proper rest and sleep. I know that it's starting to warm up. And one thing that people can look into that I need to do more myself is what's called grounding. It's where you just take your shoes off and you put your feet in the grass. And they said it actually helps to line up the atoms in your body. So yeah, different type of things. And of course, like we're always saying, our relationships. Relationships could cause you stress to where it could hurt your immune system. So just be careful of people that you're around and pray and meditate. Take some time out for yourself, that quiet time, and make sure you have some music that is calming. If you listen to that calming music, it will help you to relax. To some degree, it'll help you to relax so much you'll fall right asleep. So yeah, those are some good things. So all right then, brothers. Well, we'll just go ahead and close it on out, and I'll go ahead and close this on out. And I just wanted to thank everyone for tuning in. And we ask that you like, subscribe, and follow. Subscribe, and follow, and share this with family and friends and associates, and come back every week. We're going to have some more guests that are going to start coming on to talk about different topics of survival, canning, self defense, just a number of different things. So, with that, may God continue to bless you and your family with the light of truth and understanding. God bless. And we'll close it on out.